Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Courtney and today I'm going to be showing you all about Wet n Wild. I love Wet n Wild products. I have quite a few in my collection and I went out and got a few more for this video. Basically, the big question with Wet n Wild is how can something be so inexpensive and have a good quality to it? I'm going to be testing products for an entire makeup routine, foundation, concealer, mascara, the whole works. So if you're interested in seeing if Wet n Wild really is worth the very small price point that you pay, then keep on watching. Unfortunately, one of the things that I couldn't find in my drugstore was a primer from Wet n Wild, so I just used my Nivea Men's Post Shave Balm, and I've already prepped and primed my face with that, so I'm ready for the next step. I'm going to go ahead and do foundation before I do my eyes, and then I'll do concealer and everything else afterwards. So I've actually used this particular foundation from Wet n Wild a lot. It's one of my favorites from the drugstore. This is the Photo Focus line. This is full coverage. It looks really, not natural, but it looks like velvety on the skin, not completely matte and not luminous either. And I don't have to set it with a powder, which I like. I'm using Desert Beige and Bronze Beige. The Desert Beige is a little dark and then the Bronze Beige is a little bit light. So I'm actually going to use a little mirror to mix it on so I don't waste any of the product. I'm just going to put, they come with a little, it's like a paddle, which I like, but I feel like it's going to be hard to get all the product out of the bottle with this. But I just dip the paddle in and then I take my mirror and I just put a little bit on there, and then I do the same thing with the other color that's a bit lighter. So I'm just going to take the same thing. I'm just going to dot this on my face. I'm going to use the M439 brush from Morphe to blend this out. I mean, the coverage really is so good. Next up, I don't have an eye primer either. Primer I obviously dropped the ball on, but I a lot of times just use concealer anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and use the Photo Focus concealer. I've used this before. It's not my favorite. Oh, this little light. It's not my favorite concealer, but it works. It covers pretty well. It wears pretty well. It's not my favorite. And to set it, I'm going to use, this is something I actually use quite frequently. This is the contouring palette. You can tell I've actually hit pan because I use it to set my under eyes a lot, actually. It's a great setting powder and it's really fine, so you can actually use it to bake if you want to, which I will do when I set my face. So I'm just going to dust that over my eyes to set that concealer down. Before I start my eyeshadow, I'm going to do my brows. I'm going to use the Color Icon brow pencil. Looks like this. So it's a pencil that you sharpen on one side and then the spoolie on the other. I have used this product before as well, and I actually threw it away because I hated it. So I decided I would give it another shot for this video. I remember it being very like waxy, like a crayon, and that's not what I like for a pencil. It's really hard to layer the product like I want to. Alright, brows are finally done. Like I said, not my favorite brow product. Okay, so I have two eyeshadow palettes to pick from. This is the Poster Child palette, and I like a lot of the color schemes that they have in these kind of palettes, and it even has the place to put it in the shadow. It's stamped in there. So this says brow bone, eyelid, crease, define. I think that's pretty cool that they do that. So if you're a beginner, this is a cool option so that you really know where it goes, and it will work the way they have it on here. This one's called I'm His Breezy, and this one is very pigmented. I mean, there's a lot of color on that, like a lot. This blue in here is not nearly as pigmented as the blues in here. So, okay, so there's not really a transition shade that I like in these palettes. I like to use like a brown or like a nude kind of color. So I'm actually going to use the bronzer in that contour palette to transition my colors to start off. Next, I'm going to go in with the brightest blue here, and that's going to go as my next color. I'm basically doing like a gradient of light to dark. Now these colors are like super pigmented. You can see how much comes off on the brush. I'm actually dipping into the color and then tapping onto a paper towel and then tapping again, so that we don't get too much fallout. And I did get fallout anyway when I was doing the other eye. So for these, this particular eyeshadow palette, the blue one, I would recommend doing eyes before face. We're just gonna slowly build this up. We don't want to put a lot of color down yet. And just slowly blend it. On this side here, I'm just flicking it out a little bit. Now that there's not much color left on the brush, I'm going to go and blend out that top part. Now I want to deepen the color up a little bit, so I'm going to take a little bit more on my brush. Next, I'm going to go in with the next darkest shade, this one here. I'm going to use a brush that's a little bit more precise. Same thing though, I'm going to dip the brush into the product. Okay, and then I'm going to tap onto that paper towel and then tap one more time before I put it on. So this is going in the crease now. These eyeshadows are blending pretty well, and I mean, for these blues to be as vibrant as they are, it's really impressive for a brand that can sell a palette for $5 or less. The last color I'm going to go in with for now is going to be the darkest one right in the middle here. I'm going to dip in, and I'm just tapping off a little bit here because I really want to press that onto my lid to continue that gradient. Now I'm noticing now I do have a little bit of creasing. If you can tell. You see how that pigment kind of wore off here where my eye was closed. So that is a bit of an issue, but we'll fix that. I'm actually going to go ahead and put a little of that same color, the darkest one, on a flat brush here and put some Fix Plus on it. That helped a lot on the other eye. Alright, now taking that brush we went in with the color just above this, I'm just going to blend that line out. No new product on the brush. And then just do that process one more time, or until you feel like you've got everything at the pigmentation you want it, as well as blended where you want it. Alright, that's about where I want it, so I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off very carefully. I went ahead and threw on some wing liner off camera. I used the Wet n Wild Megaliners. I have this black one, and then I also have it in the blue that you see on top of the black line. So these are the two I used. The black one, it is perfect, honestly. It is a felt tip, but it's a little ink thing, so you dip it in instead of having the pen, where I always find they run out of the ink so fast. But it does give you a nice sharp line with that felt tip. I do really like this. The blue, it's okay. I think the pigment in it is okay. I did have to put a little bit extra on there, a couple layers on, and I think it got a little bit crusty after putting a couple layers on, so we'll see how it wears, but I like the way it looks currently. I went for a really subtle look, as you can tell. Just kidding. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of my face now. So I'm going to use that Photo Focus concealer, and that's gonna go under my eyes to hide any dark circles. Oh, that's so light. Oh, we'll deal with it, right? As you can tell, I've been using my Morphe brushes because I don't have any Wet n Wild ones, and I don't think they have sponges either, but this is just the Real Techniques one that I always use. I mean, it looks pretty on camera. I like it actually quite a lot. I'm gonna add just a little bit more because my bags are looking atrocious. I mean, other than it being way too light, I actually like it a lot more than I remember anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight the rest of my face with this. Now I'm going to go back into that contour palette and use that light shade to set everything. I'm actually going to bake with this, so like I said, it's really finely milled, so I'm going to get, look at all that. I'm just going to press it on there. That's good. Okay, I forgot that I had this contour stick. It's a cream contour stick. I don't know what happened to it. Looks like it melted or something. Anyway, because this is kind of a mess, I'm gonna actually just take this contour brush from Morphe, my Y10, and I'm gonna just lightly dip it into that contour stick. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, so. Also, this is the color Call Me Maple. Oh, how cute! Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and blend that out. Use a bigger brush. This is a M523. came out pretty. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe away that bake now. Right, next I'm gonna go ahead and bronze. And I'm gonna use my e.l.f. tapered powder brush for this, and gonna just dip into this bronzer. Using that same powder, I'm just gonna set that contour on my nose. This is the R33 brush by Morphe. For blush, I purchased one of the new formula blushes. This is one of my favorite blushes by Wet n Wild. This is the apricot in the middle, and this is the shade Mellow Wine. It's super pretty. I swatched it earlier and I really, really like it, so I'm gonna try that one today. Oh man, that's really pigmented. Just, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to blend the crap out of that. Before I highlight, I'm going to finish up my eyes. I'm going to use gold on the bottom lashes, on the bottom lash line. So this is the Wet n Wild Kohl Crayon. It's an eyeliner pencil. First of all, this is the biggest eyeliner pencil I've ever seen. I don't know why it's so long. Who's gonna go through an entire thing of eyeliner? I mean, like, this is the typical eyeliner size. I mean, why? It's so big. So you'll never run out of it. I'm actually gonna put this right below the lashes. And now using a pencil brush, I'm just gonna blend that line out. Just beneath that liner, I'm going to use the Wet n Wild Shimmer Palette. So using this brush, I'm just going to dip in very generously. I'm going to swirl all the colors together. And I'm just going to put that on that lower lash line as well, just to deepen up that gold. Just going to go back in with that liner. For highlight, I'm going to use Precious Petals, and I'm going to highlight the inner corners and my brow bone with this. I'm going to use that same Precious Petals to highlight my face as well. Really swirl a bunch in there. Alright, next is mascara, and I got the Lash Renegade. This one said that it would lengthen, define, and volumize. I like the way it looks on the bottom lashes actually, quite a lot. I'm going to go ahead and pop on some false lashes. These are Lily lashes in Miami, my all-time favorite, and I'll be right back. So to finish up, I'm going to use the Wet n Wild setting spray. This is the Photo Focus setting spray. I have never used this before. It claims that it's all day wear. I mean, maybe. Stand back a bit. Oh! Oh! Did I ruin it? Okay, let's try again. That's better. Alright. That was almost a catastrophe. It smells good. Alright, lastly, I'm just going to put on some lipstick. Wet n Wild makes some of my favorite liquid lipsticks. These are the liquid catsuit. These are great. They're not too drying, and they do last a really long time. I'm going to use the color Give Me Mocha. It's a brown with a bit of a red undertone. Now, I love this color by itself, but it looks weird with this dramatic blue eye because it has that bit of a red undertone. I'm starting to look like a clown. So I'm going to actually put the color Nudie Patootie on top of it. Much better. So I just want to give you some final thoughts on Wet n Wild. Basically, the fact of the matter is you get a great product for a really inexpensive price. I mean, I don't think anything in their entire line is more than $7, maybe $10 at the very most for a big eyeshadow palette, and you really can't beat it, especially for the quality. Plus, I'm pretty sure almost everything in the Wet n Wild lines are cruelty-free and or vegan, and that's really saying something about a company who's willing to make sure that their price point is low and they're still giving you a quality product and making sure they are sticking to their morals. So all in all, I'm a huge Wet n Wild fan. I have been for years, and they've just been getting better and better. So I think the only thing that really disappointed me with what I tried was the eyebrow pencil. I think it was too waxy, it was more like a crayon. My eyebrows still look fine, it just wasn't the easiest thing to work with, and it took a lot longer than my typical eyebrow pencil, and they're definitely not as natural as I would like, but it works. It was like $2, so when you think about it, that's not that big of a deal. So I definitely recommend Wet n Wild to any of you. I just really like the way my skin looks right now. I don't think I have any high-end products that make my skin look this good, honestly. Like, seriously, I'm thoroughly impressed. You can find Wet n Wild at pretty much any of your local drugstores, and I believe they just started selling it at Ulta, but I think it's still just online. So, hope you can find some Wet n Wild products that work for you just as well as these work for me. See you next time.